Okay, let's start implementing those third-party libraries that we spoke about in the previous video. So I have just built a blank application, or an application using a blank activity, and we're going to go into the module section of our Gradle, and we're going to go add in the dependencies. Now I have the dependencies here, and I'll upload them to you to VisiLearn, so you don't have to go through the pain of finding them, but you would generally just Google for these. So we are implementing RxJava, like we said, Retrofit in Google Play services, and you'll see under RxJava there is JSON coming through. And because we have the app compat library, we will get the coordinator layout. So once we've done this, we have to sync. And it is basically going to go and download all of those class files for us. So you will see here that it will at any minute now start saying downloading, and it's going to start downloading all of those files. Holy crap, that was too fast. Sorry again for the coughing. It will download all the class libraries for us, and we have a successful Gradle build. So nothing broke, which is always very nice. So the very next thing we want to do is we want to go onto Open Weather Map and register. So I am already registered on Open Weather Map, but you would go into sign up, and you would give them your username, your email, and you would create a password. You would say you're older than 16. You would agree with the terms and policies. Don't receive communication. Say I'm not a robot, and click on create account. You can then go and sign in with that account that was created. Oh crap. And this happens because I have to have 5,000 accounts. So I think I'm going to go here and just find that email address that I had to sign in with. It was just starting to make me feel very much like a criminal, the amount of accounts that I have to have. Let's hope this works. Oh, hallelujah. Yeah, safe. Okay, and you are basically going to sign in and go to API keys. And under API keys, you're going to see you have a default, which you do not fiddle with, because that is the one that you use to recover API keys if you lose any of these. And then good practice is to make an API key for every application. So I've already made one for Better Weather, which is what I called this app. But we're also now going to make one for Better Weather version 2. Click on Generate. And I have to verify, but I will do that. It will generate an API key for you. So we're going to copy that API key. We're going to go into Better Weather version 2, and we're going to start building this application. So what we want to build here is a common library. So to do this application, we're actually going to build quite a bit of packages. So you're going to say new package, which just is like a folder in C# to organize all the code together that should go together. And we're going to build a package called common, which will contain all the classes that are common to the entire application. We are then going to go create a new Java class, which we're going to call Retrofit common, because this class contains everything that is common to our application. Everything that you're seeing right here and the funny guys popping up is just because I'm adding stuff to Git. So here we are going to make a private static final string, and we're going to call it, I think, app_id, and then we can do that in caps because it's final. And remember, we have to look at the documentation of what this guy should be called. We shouldn't mess that up. And we're going to stick our API key in there. So we are now ready to start carrying on. So once we have the API key, it's time for us to go and build our Retrofit library. But before we can build Retrofit, we need to have what is known as an endpoint. We need to get the point that returns JSON. So if we go into APIs in Open Weather, you're going to see that we want current weather data, and we're going to click on the API doc, and we're going to look for current weather data by geographic coordinates. Okay, and here you will see is the endpoint, or here is the URL that we kind of need to give. We have to have, and we're going to copy this into Notepad. And it actually asks you for the latitude, the longitude, and there is what app ID should look like, and your API key. So much like the previous app, we want to see that this returns JSON. So let's go look, what is the latitude and longitude for Durban, South Africa? And here we have them, and that is actually a bit of a misnomer. That's a minus, but let's do this. So we go in here and we replace the latitude with the latitude, but you have to make that negative, or you're going to get some weird country that nobody knows where it is. And there is the longitude. I've probably almost failed geography. It's like Satan's subject. So I'm a bit useless to with what latitude and longitude is. It finds places. And then it obviously wants our API key. I'm going to take this out, and we're going to go find our API key without the inverted commas. And I hope you guys see things that's coming through from C# here, that question mark tells us this is the base URL. And this question mark tells us that we are appending variables to our GET request. Everything after the question mark is a variable, and the ampersand tells us there is two distinct variables that we are passing. Actually, three. There is the latitude, ampersand longitude, ampersand app ID. So, and we went through this detail in Proc 7311. So if we have not stuffed up here, we should now be able to get a mess. Okay, so invalid API key. Let's go look why this API key is invalid. Oh Lord, I'm no longer signed in. It has kicked me out. You're already signed in. Oh, hello, Serena. Okay, sorry about that. Let's go to API keys. Maybe I've just copied it like my butt. I hope that is what happened here. Let's go see. I did. Okay. And you will basically see that we have the weather data and we have it for Durban. I'm just going to go check that I copied the right one now. Oh, that was the other one. Of course I'm fine. Everything is perfect. It doesn't like that API key for some reason, and I'll go look into it. I think it might still be generating it. So we can use the previous API key that I have created, and we'll just give that one maybe overnight to complete. Don't know if it's not liking me asking for the free ones, but there is the weather for Durban, and you will see that the latitude and the longitude is exactly what we sent through. So now if we know this is working, we can now use Retrofit to build our connection for us, because you'll remember in the previous app we had a base URL, and then we built a URI basically, and then we built a URL by saying .append upon. I don't know if you guys remember that, and we used to say append upon the query parameters. Well, it's going to work a bit easier and shorter if we use Retrofit. So let's go do our little Retrofit bit, and you'll see we actually pass in the API key later. So I haven't exactly broken it 100% yet. Okay. So I'm wondering, yeah, let's go build that Retrofit guy. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go and add a new package, and we're going to call it Retrofit. And inside Retrofit, we're going to make a new class, and we're going to call it Retrofit Client. Just make sure you're inside your package. I'm going to add it to Git. Okay. So the reason this is asking me to add it to Git all the time is I've initialized this folder because I was pushing up some other code. And if you initialize the folder, everything's going to go to Git. Okay, anyway, so now what we want to do is we want to go create a private, and you'll see that we're making a singleton here, a public static retrofit client. But you have to be careful what you do with this retrofit client here, okay? Because we might run into some errors a little bit later if we do not do that retrofit client 100% correctly. What will happen is it will tell you that you said you're going to use a retrofit client and you are not using a retrofit client of retrofit version 2. You are using a retrofit client of type your package, and that might cause some instance, some errors. So we're going to say public static retrofit instance, but that retrofit there must be retrofit 2. Okay, and we're going to call this guy instance. And what are we going to do? We are going to do get instance, just like we did with the singleton in C#. And you'll see here singletons are alive and well because it's allowing us to create a get instance method here, a public static method of type retrofit get instance. So let's start. And what are we going to do now? We're going to go say if instance does not equal null. If instance is empty, then instance equals new retrofit builder. And this is where it gets easy. So we can say we would like a base URL, and we now know what our base URL is. Our base URL is this. And to the base URL, we are now saying we don't want to convert this JSON the old way. You will convert it for me. So I want to add a converter factory, and I can use, whoopsie, I can just use JSON. So I can say add converter factory, and I can say JSON converter factory dot create. And I also want you to handle the callback for me. So add callback adapter. So you do the whole connection for me to the HTTP client. And we're using RX Java 3 callback adapter factory dot create. And that is basically your entire network utility class. It's still not happy because it wants you disabled. And there we are. That is retrofit. So we have gone and said we would like to go to this base URL, and we will later create an interface which will add the query parameters for us. But we are saying we would like to go to this base URL, and we want the JSON that comes back from there to be converted through JSON to Java objects. So we're going to build a whole model class for that. And we want you to connect to this guy for us and do the entire HTTP connection. Thank you very much. Wonder if it's going to let us dig into this class. It did. So you will basically see that it does create an async task for you like the previous one. Creates a scheduler for you. It handles your whole HTTP connection for you. All of this code is just given to you. You have all your multi-class, your multi-threading done. Your HTTP connection is done, and it will very beautifully parse your JSON for you. So there we go. Once we have this in, we can go, no wonder, no, we're not going to create that interface yet. We can go and we can start creating our models. So to do this, no, let's go create our interface. So we are going to go add, and you're going to say new Java class. Make sure you right click on the retrofit package. So make sure you right click on retrofit. You say new Java class, and here we can change it to an interface. And this interface is going to be called I open weather. And we can create that guy there. Because just remember, we have not appended any parameters here. We haven't given it the latitude, we haven't given it the longitude, and we haven't given it our API key or what units we would like this in. And this URL clearly has parameters after the question mark. We want to send parameters with our query. We would like with our get request, we see the latitude, the longitude, the app ID, and we don't want the stuff in Fahrenheit because it does not make sense. Like that just it doesn't work. So we must now go and create our interface that will allow us to append our queries. And the first thing we are going to do is we're going to say this is for a get request. So at get, and we're going to tell it the first bit that we want, and we want weather. So get weather for us, because this weather is given to us by openweather.org, not by ourselves. So if you go click here, openweathermap.org gives it to us. If you go click on back on API doc, when you see, whenever we are dealing with weather, this weather is provided. So we need to append that, but not as a query. Okay, so a get request, so get from weather. So if you guys think back to C#, this is the weight controller. Do you understand that this is just a controller that gives us different types of weather? Okay, so we want to get weather. And here we would like to create a method. So now we're going to go create our observable. So we're going to say observable. It's an observable of type. So do you see observable of type? And then there is the guy we want. We want to work with RX Java. And the type we are going to give you, we don't have yet. We're going to go make it later. So we're just going to say weather results here. And we are going to go and create a new package. We're going to call it models. And inside models, we're going to go create a new Java class. And we're going to call it weather results and click OK. And it's still not going to be happy here unless we go and we say Alt and Enter and we import that models guy there. So we want an observable of type weather results, and that will become very clear later, and it will be similar to what we did in C#. And we're going to call it, so it's kind of like a method, and we're going to call it get weather with lat and lon. Okay, and now we're going to pass in parameters because okay, this is just an interface, so there is there is no body here. So we're going to pass in the parameters that we want for this interface, and we're going to annotate it with @query so that it knows we are sending a query. We are creating this little question mark guys here. We're going to make our first query, and our first query is called, and it's better to copy and paste it so you don't stuff it up. The first thing we want to append after the question mark is lat for latitude. So we're going to go and say lat. And with that, so append to that, what are we going to put there? String latitude. And we can do another one. We can say we also want longitude. Yeah, that messes with me. So the next one is lon, and we go add lon in inverted commas. If you are slow like me, you will forget that. And it is called string lon, and we have to give it our app ID because it asks for app ID, and that's your API key. So let's go add app ID there, and then string app ID. And the very last one we want to do is units. If I can stop breaking my code. Because we want Celsius. We do not want Fahrenheit. And we're going to say not string units. So here is our interface that has a method or an observable in it that will append the queries to our URL for us. So if you think back to our original web app, you would have had append upon or dot append query lat, dot append query lon, dot append. Okay, so this is just how we do it with Retrofit with the annotation for add queries. So now we have our base URL, and we have all the queries that we have to append to it so that we get this URL here. And we can log that guy in already, so you guys can click on it and see. And once we have all the queries that we can append to it, we would like to convert the JSON to Java with JSON, and we would like RxJava to make and maintain the connection for us. And we have implemented Retrofit as a singleton, which you will realize if you did the singleton stuff in C#. So that's where we're going to stop for now. And in the next video, we're going to go build all our models.